What happens when a small-town police chief tries to humiliate a black man at a dusty gas station? He never expected the man's quiet strength or the powerful connection that would turn the entire situation upside down. What happens next leaves the whole town speechless. Before we begin the story, write in the comments where you are watching us from. Elijah woke up that morning with a quiet determination only a man who has seen too much could carry. He brushed off the dust from his old boots, kissed the photo of his late mother on the dresser, and stepped outside, feeling the heavy Georgia air pressing down like it always did before a storm. His tank was low, so he rolled into that gas station, the one with the flickering neon open sign that hummed like a tired preacher on a Sunday night. He noticed a frail, older lady bent over her walker, struggling to lift a case of water into her trunk. Elijah didn't even think twice. He put down his coffee, stepped in, and lifted that case with a warm, "Let me help you with that, ma'am." She looked up at him, eyes watering, and said, "Bless you, son." Right there. That's what made him smile, even if it was just for a second. But that's the thing about life. It doesn't wait to remind you of its uglier side. The moment he wiped his hands and turned, a big police SUV rolled in, squeaking as it parked crooked across two spots. Out stepped Police Chief Grayson, a thick man with a badge that seemed to weigh more than the law itself on his chest, looking at Elijah like he was something stuck on the bottom of his boot. "Blocking the lane, huh?" Grayson said, his voice carrying that false, casual tone like a cat playing with a mouse. Elijah calmly replied, "Just helping her out, sir. I'll move out the way." Grayson's eyes narrowed and he knocked the coffee out of Elijah's hand, the hot liquid splattering on Elijah's shirt, sinking in and staining it like a wound. The older lady gasped, but Grayson didn't even blink. "You think you can just stand here like you own the place?" Grayson stepped in closer, the smell of stale coffee and cheap cologne hitting Elijah's nose. Elijah felt the sting of the hot coffee, but he kept his calm, glancing at the people around who had stopped pumping gas, their eyes darting, their hands gripping phones they were too scared to use. The sun glared down, making the asphalt shimmer, as if it too was holding its breath. "Sir, I'm not looking for trouble," Elijah said, wiping his shirt. Grayson smirked, a cold, humorless smirk. "Oh, you found it." Before Elijah could react, Grayson shoved him, sending him stumbling into the car. The trunk slammed shut, the groceries shaking inside, a plastic bag tearing and cans rolling out across the ground. Elijah caught himself, breathing hard, the heat of embarrassment rising in his cheeks as people watched, whispering, filming with shaky hands. Elijah looked into Grayson's eyes and saw something deeper than anger. It was the need to remind him of his place, right there in that gas station, in front of strangers, under that relentless Georgia sun. The older lady tried to step forward, trembling. "Please, he was just helping me." But Grayson shot her a glare that turned her words into silence. She backed away, clutching her walker, tears in her eyes. Elijah's heart pounded, but he kept his head high. He could feel his mother's voice in his mind telling him, "Don't let them steal your dignity, son." He straightened his back, even as Grayson's shadow loomed over him. "You people think you can do whatever you want, don't you?" Grayson hissed. Elijah answered, his voice steady. "Sir, I just wanted to help." Grayson's jaw tightened, and with one quick move, he grabbed Elijah by the collar, pulling him close enough for Elijah to see the sweat on Grayson's brow. Then, with a sharp motion, he pushed him down across the hood of the car, metal pressing against Elijah's chest, the heat from the sun burning through his shirt. Phones were recording now, whispers turning into murmurs, but nobody moved to help. Elijah's eyes locked with a teenage boy recording on his phone, his eyes wide with fear and hope. Elijah felt the cold steel of Grayson's badge pressing against his neck as Grayson leaned in and whispered, "You're going to remember who's in charge around here." Elijah closed his eyes for a moment, breathing in the scent of gasoline, rust, and dust. His mind raced with every lesson his father taught him about dignity, about standing tall even when the world wanted you on your knees. And just as Grayson pulled back, ready for whatever came next, Elijah's phone started ringing from the ground, vibrating against the concrete, the screen lighting up with a name that made Elijah's eyes flash. He didn't move to pick it up. He didn't have to. Because right there, under that boiling sun with the weight of a system pressing down on him, Elijah made a decision. He wasn't going to look away, wasn't going to cower, wasn't going to give this man the satisfaction of fear. He looked Grayson dead in the eyes, and for a moment, the chief blinked. "What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how this unfolds." Elijah sat in the cruiser, cuffs biting into his wrists, the vinyl seat hot against his back under the Georgia sun. Sweat dripped down his temple, but he kept his head high, refusing to give Grayson the satisfaction of seeing him break. Outside, Chief Grayson paced, pretending to be in control, but his eyes kept darting toward the crowd holding up phones, recording everything. The gas station had turned into an arena. The hum of the pumps was drowned out by whispers and the low murmur of people watching. The older woman Elijah helped stood by her car, hands pressed together, lips moving in silent prayer, refusing to look away. "You think you're brave?" Grayson's voice came through the window, harsh and tight, but there was a crack there. Something small but real. Elijah turned his head slowly, meeting Grayson's glare with calm eyes. "I think I'm standing where I need to stand." Grayson's nostrils flared, but he said nothing, looking around at the crowd, seeing the cameras that would not look away. A young officer, Randy, stood nearby, his hand shaking near his radio. Grayson snapped his fingers at him. "Randy! Put him in the back!" Randy froze. His eyes darted from Elijah to Grayson to the phones. "Chief, maybe we should wait." "I said do it!" Grayson's voice was sharp enough to make the woman by her car flinch. Elijah lifted his chin, nodding at Randy, showing the boy it was okay. Randy moved forward, fumbling with the keys, the cuffs rattling as he opened the cruiser door. Elijah stepped out, his shoulders broad, even with his hands bound behind him. The crowd shifted, phones rising higher, capturing his quiet defiance under the blazing sun. Grayson leaned in close enough for Elijah to see the sweat on his forehead. "You'll learn your place today." Elijah tilted his head, letting out a slow breath. "We'll see about that." Before Grayson could respond, the distant sound of sirens grew closer, the red and blue lights flashing against the cracked concrete as two more patrol cars pulled in. The gas station owner peeked out from inside, eyes wide, holding the door as if unsure whether to step out or hide. Out of the patrol cars stepped two officers, one of them a tall black woman with calm eyes and a badge that caught the sun. She looked at Elijah, then at Grayson, her gaze cool and direct. "Chief, what's going on here?" "Handling it," Grayson muttered, but his eyes were restless, scanning the phones and the faces watching. She crossed her arms, not moving. "You're done here." The crowd tensed, leaning forward, sensing the shift in power. Grayson opened his mouth, but before he could speak, Randy's radio crackled and his phone buzzed. He looked down, his face going pale, before lifting his eyes to Elijah. It's for you," Randy stammered, holding the phone toward him. Elijah raised an eyebrow, nodding for him to put it on speaker. A voice came through, calm and firm. "Chief Grayson, this is Assistant District Attorney Samuel Carter. I'm on my way." Grayson froze, his mouth hanging open for a moment before he turned away, pacing again, his boots scuffing against the concrete. The sirens faded as a sleek black sedan pulled in, the door opening as a young black man in a sharp navy suit stepped out. His posture was relaxed, but the steel in his eyes was clear. He held up his badge, the gold catching the afternoon light. "Chief Grayson," he said, his voice steady, "I believe you have someone in custody who needs to be released. Now." Gasps moved through the crowd, the phones zooming in, catching Grayson's face as it shifted, his authority cracking in front of the lenses. The older woman took a step forward, her voice trembling. "He didn't do anything wrong." Grayson turned, glaring, but the woman didn't back down, her small frame holding its ground. Elijah turned to face Grayson fully, cuffs still on his wrists, but his eyes steady, unblinking. "This is what standing up looks like." Grayson's shoulders slumped as the young ADA stepped closer, his badge still raised, the officer beside him ready. "Release him," Carter ordered. Randy fumbled with the cuffs, unlocking them, the metal clicking open as the sun caught on Elijah's dark skin, leaving a bright mark where the steel had been. Elijah rubbed his wrists, stepping forward, feeling the weight fall away as the crowd began to cheer softly. The phones caught every second, recording the moment when a man refused to back down, even when power tried to crush him. This is the climax you've been waiting for. Stay tuned to see how Elijah turns the tables. Elijah stood there, the cuffs finally gone from his wrists, the Georgia sun catching on his dark skin as he rubbed the bright marks left behind. The heat pressed down on the gas station, but the air felt different now, charged with the quiet power of a moment that could not be erased. Assistant District Attorney Samuel Carter stood beside him, his navy suit crisp, his badge still gleaming as he faced Chief Grayson. Carter's calm voice carried across the lot, every word sharp. "This ends now." Grayson's jaw worked, but he stayed silent, the weight of the crowd's eyes, the cameras, and Carter's steady presence pinning him in place. The older woman Elijah had helped earlier stepped forward, her face streaked with tears, but her chin lifted with quiet courage. "Thank you," she whispered to Elijah, her hand lightly brushing his arm before she stepped back. Elijah turned, taking in the crowd. They were all there, phones still raised, but now it was different. Now they weren't just witnesses, they were part of it, part of this moment that would not be hidden or ignored. A teenager near the pumps lowered his phone for a second, eyes wide, whispering, "He stood up." Police cruisers still lined the lot, their lights flashing in red and blue, reflecting off windows and chrome, painting the scene in sharp colors. The hum of engines mixed with the quiet voices of people watching, waiting, breathing in the shift that was happening right in front of them. Grayson finally spoke, his voice low, the authority stripped from it. "You think this changes anything?" Elijah's eyes met his, steady and unblinking. "It already has." Carter stepped closer, his presence firm but calm, a quiet shield beside Elijah. "Chief, you need to leave. We'll be in touch." Grayson's face went pale, but he turned, his boots dragging slightly as he walked back to his cruiser. The door slammed, but it wasn't loud enough to cover the quiet cheer that rose from the crowd, a sound that grew, filling the lot, rolling over the concrete like a wave. Elijah took a breath, letting it fill him, steady him, reminding him of who he was. The sun caught the coffee stain on his shirt, a reminder of how this started with a simple act of kindness, helping an elderly woman with her water at a gas station. A simple act that turned into a test of dignity, of courage, of standing up when it would have been easier to step back. The young officer, Randy, approached, his eyes uncertain but full of something like respect. "Sir, I'm sorry." Elijah nodded, placing a hand on the young man's shoulder. "Do better," he said softly, the words landing with the weight of something true. Around them, the community that had gathered began to shift, some still recording, others lowering their phones, their faces carrying a mixture of relief, pride, and the sharp edge of anger that demanded change. Carter turned to Elijah, giving him a firm nod. "You're free, and you're not alone in this." Elijah looked back at him, a tired but genuine smile crossing his face. "Thank you." A soft breeze moved across the lot, rustling shirts and hair, cooling the heat of the day for a moment. The gas station owner stepped out, his face conflicted, but he nodded once at Elijah before slipping back inside. The older woman moved closer, this time taking Elijah's hand in hers for a moment, squeezing it with surprising strength for her age. "You're a good man," she said, her voice steady now. Elijah held her gaze, nodding once, letting the words land before he let go of her hand. He looked around, seeing every face, every camera, knowing that they would remember this day. He turned toward Carter and the officers, nodding before stepping forward, the sunlight catching on his shoulders as he walked across the lot, every step steady. The sirens were gone now, leaving only the soft sounds of life returning to the gas station, but nothing felt the same. The teenager raised his phone again, whispering to his friend. He didn't back down. Elijah didn't look back. He didn't need to. This was not just about him anymore. It was about every person who had been told to stay silent, every act of quiet strength that had been ignored, every small moment of courage that built into something bigger. And as he walked away from the gas station, the coffee stain on his shirt catching the last light of the day, Elijah knew he had done what he came to do: stand up, stay steady, and refuse to be silenced. You've seen how Elijah faced it all. Share this story. Let them see how one man's courage can change everything.